Hi everyone, how's it going? It's Clarissa with That Dumb Movie Show, and today I'm here to talk about a film that has been somewhat under the radar, and without good reason, because I've seen multiple people point out on Twitter that it's odd that this film has skipped the festival circuit, and it's also odd that it's being sort of buried by its distributor, and that film is The Little Stranger, directed by Lenny Abrahamson, and he's best known for Room, which is the film that Brie Larson won her Oscar for. It also introduced us to the tiny acting wonder that is Jacob Tremblay. Lenny Abrahamson also directed Frank, which is an indescribable but brilliant film. And I have a feeling I know what's going on here, because The Little Stranger is a very good example of a Gothic horror, and there is just not much room for that in 2018. That genre just leaves people angry and quite confused, because The Little Stranger has defined supernatural elements, but they aren't as prevalent as they usually are in a horror film, and they come into the story very late in the game. But, you know, The Little Stranger doesn't want its quality to be dependent on how scary it is. You know, in short, it's not a scary film. Really not at all, but it's still an excellent horror. And I feel like we do tend to struggle a little bit with that concept. I'm still very bitter about what happened to Guillermo del Toro's Crimson Peak, because it kind of flopped at the box office because everyone went, "Ooh, but it's not scary, but it was never meant to be scary." It drives me a little bit crazy. I just don't think a film should be judged solely on one quality. I think there's so many other things to take in, to appreciate. There are films like The Witch and The Babadook, which aren't necessarily going to give you any sleepless nights, but they still tell stories that are so rich and so layered and so beautifully put to screen. They're still great horror movies. I'm sorry about the music. I live next to a beach, so it's like non-stop party. So that is just what I want to underline like a million times with The Little Stranger. It is an atmospheric Gothic horror film that is trying to do things other than just scare you. It's adapted from a book by Sarah Waters, which itself is heavily influenced by Gothic ghost stories. Henry James, Edith Wharton, all the classics, and Gothic ghost stories tend to follow a fairly strict structure in which a rational person, in this case Donald Gleason's Dr. Faraday, will get wrapped up in another world, usually aristocratic in nature. It'll be these huge dilapidated mansions, and this is certainly no different. His work as a doctor sees him return to Hundreds Hall, which he has very vivid memories of from his childhood, and specifically of being so enchanted by it. But, you know, now this house is a shadow of his former self. And aristocratic decay is actually a pretty big theme in a lot of Gothic literature. Here, Sarah Waters explicitly engages with that theme in the context of the post-war period, specifically World War II, in which a lot of these stately homes started to fall in decline because so many heads of households and heirs were killed in the war, and inheritance tax was at an all-time high, so those that were left behind had greatly reduced fortunes and were struggling with the upkeep on these huge houses. Combined with that, it was a great period of social upheaval. People were coming back from war and wanting to see change in their own country, and so these old social divides started to break down. And that's where The Little Stranger fits in. It follows that Gothic tradition where the supernatural is really just a metaphor and ghosts exist to bring messages, and that is why the supernatural element is so subtle, because it's existing within this wider social drama. And you know, that aspect really is so brilliantly written, and the performances from Donald Gleason and the aristocratic family as well, Ruth Wilson, Will Poulter, Charlotte Rampling, everyone's just very good at being able to communicate that social divide. And also just the way that Lenny Abrahamson will direct scenes to really emphasize that awkwardness, that just no one really knows how to interact with each other. He just keeps shoving people into the corners of rooms so that they feel very cut off from each other. And I think the only way that The Little Stranger suffers, if anything, is in how subtly it does approach the subject. Everything is subtext here, so the narrative can feel a little slow moving because of that, but I just think if you are patient with this film, it can be so rewarding. But if you've had a chance to see The Little Stranger, I would love to know what you guys thought. You can let me know down in the comments below, or you can hit me up on Twitter, details down in that description box. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe so we can hang out and talk about movies. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.